The ongoing Epstein conspiracy theory is not going away anytime soon. We've got MAGA journalists flipping on Trump, MAGA influencers, and even Joe Rogan bringing back his love for conspiracies. Posted this: shout out to all the people that still don't believe in conspiracies. Your ability to stick to your guns is inspiring. Reposted by Elon Musk. Now, why is this interesting? Well, Elon Musk said that Trump's part of the Epstein list. Now, we know he's in the flight logs. That's really not the juicy side. The juicy part is, what's the greater conspiracy? Is Trump involved on a more sinister level, or is he covering for people that might be involved in other ways? We really don't know, but it's really the case of them not giving any transparency, which is leading plenty of people to flip on Trump. Now, I would have preferred people flipped on Trump because of his inhumane deportation policies, the tariffs that are just going to be taxing ourselves, the tax cuts for the ultra wealthy, the concepts of a healthcare plan that's never been delivered, the rolling back of Biden's infrastructure bill. I mean, there's a million things that I would wish people would flip on. But if they voted for Trump because they wanted him to drain the swamp, well, the swamp ain't being drained anytime. The swamp is clogged, folks. Here is Sagar from Breaking Points interviewing this lady right here on the right. She is she's a journalist and was, a big MAGA journalist, invited to the White House essentially to be a prop for their propaganda. She is now turning on, the way she's been used as a stooge.
Critical of Attorney General Pam Bondi. So we wanted to give you a chance as somebody who was basically used by the White House as part of this event to talk about this. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things to establish is that day at the White House in late February, we were not invited there to meet with Pam Bondi. We were not invited there to be given those infamous white Epstein binders. We were actually invited as a really cool initiative on the part of the White House. They invited a bunch of new media personalities, conservative commentators, independent journalists there, and told us, listen, we're not going to reward the mainstream media anymore for their propagandizing, their lying, their smearing. We're going to start giving access to independent figures, which means we're going to give you access today to all of the top administration officials.
My question is, how did they not realize they were being used? How did they not realize they were being puppets? Were they sort of bewildered by the chance to go to the White House? I mean, it is, the one policy from Trump that I do like the idea that they're going to be bringing in new media personalities. I like that idea. The problem is, if they're only going to cherry pick people that are going to, be a part of their echo chamber, then it's not real journalism happening at all. So clearly they only invited people that weren't going to question what was in these binders. And what I'm noticing about, the Trump administration, I'm having a hard time today. I'm sick. What I'm noticing about the Trump administration is everything is propaganda, right? Everything is them filming. They want to be in control of the media. They want to march through MacArthur Park. They want everything to be this dystopian Hollywood filmed scene. The bombers driving through, the military parade, and it's like, where's the policy? What's actually happening that's helping the American people? Is this it?
So we actually spent the day meeting with most of the cabinet secretaries and a lot of the most powerful people in the West Wing, from the president, the vice president, and all of his staff. And it was really cool. Unfortunately, it got hijacked, which from a personal perspective is very annoying and frustrating. Also a political issue for President Trump that hasn't quite been put to bed yet. But when we did meet with Pam Bondi, it was about a 15-minute meeting. The attorney general came in. She talked to us about some of the other initiatives that the DOJ is working on. And then towards the end of the meeting, she hands us these binders. And of course, the cover sheet of that binder says the most transparent administration in history. It says phase 1 of the Epstein files. Our first reaction, of course, was, oh my goodness, what is this? She very quickly clarified that the juicy stuff, the dirty stuff, wasn't in these binders. She said, when I got into office, I immediately requested the Epstein files. This is what I was given by the FBI, but I thought 100 pages or however many pages that is, that can't be all of it. She's like, and I soon came to realize that after a whistleblower, she said, called me and told me the SDNY was hiding other documents, truckloads of documents, the real dirty stuff, she told us. The real story is that the FBI is stonewalling me. The FBI is lying to me. That's the story. And she offered that story to us to break. Now, that's where things, I don't even think that's where things start to go south.
But by the way, this is the same technique that was used against me in the Laura Owens case, where they'll tell you things privately to keep you hooked. No, there's more coming. They're holding this back. We're going to go get them. But then when push comes to shove, just like Pam Bondi said with Abrego Garcia and all of the people they sent to the concentration camp-like conditions. And I can say that because there is reports coming out that this El Salvadorian prison, CCOT, they have been abused there. And they're like, oh yeah, no, they're murderers or this or that. And then when it comes to proving it in court, they don't do it. So Pam Bondi, all talk, no delivery. And just several months into this presidency, people are calling it out.
And we unintentionally ran into a gaggle of mainstream media on the grass in the back, and you should have seen their faces, Sagar. They were so bitter that we were invited into the White House, that we were given access to these cabinet secretaries.
Yeah, because you guys were stooges. And if you're going to be mainstream, if you're going to be new media and be invited, you need to ask the tough questions. I'm not saying mainstream media is doing that, but have some backbone, right? And just know that if they hand you this giant thing, you're going to be used as part of their propaganda.
That's what we were smiling about. Yeah, we were taunting them, of course. They were bitter, and they deserve to be bitter. They lied and they propagandized. So we were also giddy because we had just been in the Oval Office. We had just taken a collective vote that President Trump had asked us of which painting he should hang, George Washington or Ronald Reagan. I mean, you can't help but feel a high after an experience like that.
Oh my gosh, I can't. I'm done. We're done. We're moving it on. She's giddy. I mean, like, I get it. I understand it is the White House, but also you're being just completely like, you're just used. You're being used. All right. Well, here we have Patrick Bet-David, a big MAGA influencer and podcaster on Jesse Waters' show. Listen, he's saying, look, I voted for Trump 3 times, but this Epstein stuff, they need to answer for it.
What did you think when Trump said, nah, Epstein's old news?
The number one trending hashtag right now on X is Epstein. 2 million people have tweeted with the topic of Epstein. Number 2 is Nicki Minaj at 100,000. Comey's at 42,500. There is a reason why people are asking about this. This is by far, and I'm a supporter. 3 times I voted for this man. This is by far the biggest fumble of the administration they've had thus far. And here's the reason why. If you remember the president winning, he had a conversation with Fox News, the great Rachel Campos Duffy, and she asked, Mr. President, 9/11, yes. John F. Kennedy, yes. Epstein, he didn't say yes. He was a little bit hesitant of bringing that information out. Why? So why does his leadership team go out there and are like, we have this information and we're going to release this and cash? And let me tell you what we have with Pam Bondi out of the state of Florida. She knew everything about Bondi, about Epstein. Why are you fumbling this? Why are you not having an emergency meeting together to conversate and say, hey, we're going to be on the same page with messaging on this? All you have to do is send a message to everybody, say, God, let's have a conference call. Here's what we're going to be saying about this, because this was a very important issue to not 80% of the voters that voted for President Trump, but I think 20% of the voters wanted to know what's going to happen with Epstein, and it's a big letdown. I totally get the big victories. Tariff, $300 billion valuation.
So he talks about these big victories, one of which is the tariffs, how they're bringing in $300 billion. What they don't address is that the $300 billion is from American companies and is being passed on to the consumer. So a large percentage of that money is straight out of our pockets. So either way, look, a broken clock's right twice a day. You're not going to agree with people on everything. But if we can come together as a society and say, look, this is a big deal, I'm okay with it. Let this unite us.
I voted for Donald Trump in 2016, 2020, 2000.
We can tell.
I am prepared to die on this hill. If Donald Trump is part of the Epstein list, and why he has decided to pretend like doesn't exist anymore, then the war that I've been waging on liberals and everyone that has been completely insane, I plan to wage on Donald Trump if he cannot explain or make sense of this soon.
What's the saying? An enemy of my enemy is my friend. Is that the saying? Either way, look, let's all come together. Sure. Here's a guy throwing out his merchandise.
Going in the trash. I do not support Trump anymore. He's a liar. He's a part of the deep state. I do not support Israel. I
There it
will
is.
not be supporting him anymore. He's part of the deep state.
Oh, and it goes in the trash there. All right. Up next, here's a guy who says we're finally united. I thought it would have taken aliens to unite us, but apparently Epstein's doing that.
All right, so I voted for Trump, and this Epstein thing is just insane. But I think it's showing us one thing, and that's our country is unified for the first time in a long time. And I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, we all know this administration is guilty. So I guess that's a good thing, and maybe we can unite around this and move forward.
There it is. Yeah, let's move forward. And this is a good example. Same thing with the Luigi stuff with healthcare. The country is united. We are united in certain ways. Let me explain. It's not left versus right. It's up versus down. We, the middle class, the working people, are united. We are getting robbed on health insurance. We are getting robbed by the corporate, private equity groups that are buying all of the houses and people can't afford homes. We're getting robbed by the major companies that are, doing, their own version of inflation, right? Since the pandemic, they all decided to raise their prices because they could get away with it. We are being robbed left and right. And if it takes something like this for people to come together, I'm all about it. Show us the list.
A Trump supporter. And I'm going to tell you this right now. If this is the verdict, there's no Epstein client list, then all of us that have installed Bongino and Kash Patel, the whole Trump administration, period, all they talked about was transparency. If we don't get accountability for the thousands of victims that were abused, who knows what type of crimes we're talking, then I'm jumping ship. And all of you should as well.
Now you might say, well, but Biden didn't do anything. Listen, Biden didn't push this story as we're going to expose it all. And again, I'm not a supporter of a lot of the policies that Biden had. He was, propping up Israel in a time when they were, really and still are terrorizing Gaza to the point where a lot of countries have, claims they're war crimes, right? That Netanyahu's committing war crimes. So again, it's not, and by the way, I always have to reiterate, it's not about the people, it's about the government. It's about what the governments are doing. So here we're going to switch a little bit to Hakeem Jeffries, right? Hakeem Jeffries refuses to endorse Zohran Mamdani. Now, Zohran Mamdani is the second coming of Obama, right? He is everything people wanted Obama to be, and then some. He had the biggest political victory kind of really ever in the United States political election landscape, came out of nowhere to defeat in the primaries Cuomo, son of a former governor, and now, for several reasons I'll explain, nobody's endorsing him.
Came out of nowhere with less money, less fame, beat Andrew Cuomo, son of Mario Cuomo, known in New York. Is that a good thing for the Democratic Party?
Well, he ran a tremendous race. He outworked the opposition. He out-communicated the opposition. He out-organized the opposition. And I think one of the things that was key about what he was able to do is that he ran directly at the issue of affordability. Across every age demographic, it's the number one issue in the city of New York.
And this is an issue across the country that the corporate Democrats and the Republicans don't understand. The populist issue. On the right, they call it populism. On the left, you call it progressivism. But it's the idea that the ultra-rich don't pay their fair share. They get all these tax cuts. The middle class hasn't received a raise in decades. They haven't, right? They're not making any money. My generation, millennials, were the first generation to not do as well as previous generations. This is not a good thing for society. And nobody seemingly in office is talking about it. Like half the country doesn't associate as Democrat or Republican, right? And they're not represented by the people. There's very few people that are talking about it. Bernie Sanders, AOC, Zohran Mamdani. So it's no surprise why they are so popular. And rather than adopt those policies, the sort of corporate Democrats are not quite sold, even though the rest of the country is.
Now, he articulated a very provocative platform in that regard. I look forward to sitting down and talking to him about his plans to actually implement that platform to deal with some of the challenges that the communities that I face are dealing with in terms of gentrification and displacement, and a whole host of other issues that I would normally talk about with any Democratic nominee, and certainly we'll talk about with our particular Democratic nominee in the context of the mayoral race. I think one of the things that we'll continue to try to do at the national level is to lean in aggressively to Donald Trump's failure to address the high cost of living. He promised to lower costs on day one. Costs aren't going down.
Yep.
It's going up. Inflation is on the way up. Life remains far too expensive for the American people.
I got to tell
Democrats
you,
want to do something about it.
Respectfully, I see the pivot. You know, you're good at this. That's how you got this job. But then I got to rephrase the question. You're not ready yet to say whether it's a good thing. You want to meet with him. You want to kick the tires. At this juncture, you're not ready to say that this turnout, this energy that he tapped in New York is good for the party yet.
Oh, no, listen. I mean, I think that when you can increase the electorate, particularly as it relates to parts of the electorate that came out in significant numbers, which include the South Asian community in many parts of New York City, and certainly younger folks under the age of 39 in New York City, that is absolutely a good thing. And of course, he should be credited with pulling off that kind of campaign that reached so many folks.
But the tension here, if I'm hearing some possible tension, is, as you know, the Democratic Party has had a hard time with some of these, whatever you call them, democratic socialists, insurgents, more liberal, energetic candidates.
More popular candidates, more candidates that speak to the people. They don't want AOC in there. They have no choice. She is beloved, whether people all agree with this or not. She is beloved, right? So many people that voted for Trump still voted for her.
Even when they do what you just referred to. So we have a history here from Bernie Sanders, some of the way the AOC or members of the squad were treated, and now some of the apparent reaction where people are wondering, is there room in the tent? Not saying that I mean, you have a lot more power than him. Not saying you would endorse the whole platform. But when his platform is affordability, ideas around democratic socialism, raising the tax rate in the city of New York, free buses, a different type of foreign policy, if we simplify, but much more harshly critical of the Israeli government, say, than I think the congressional leaders have been in terms of approaching the entire conflict. Is there room in the Big Ten of the Democratic Party for that right now, or for you is that TBD?
Well, certainly we're a Big Tent party, and I think what I'll say in terms of the House Democratic Caucus family is that every single member of the House Democratic Caucus, from Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez all the way to Representative Jared Golden and everyone in between, progressives, New Dems, and Blue Dogs, we in the House, we represent the gorgeous mosaic of the American people. That's a good thing. Now, I think what we have to do is make sure that we can more intimately communicate with the American people, that we understand their challenges and their frustrations as it relates to the desire to build an affordable economy that actually works for working class Americans, that we hear you, we see you, we feel you, and we're committed to making life better for you. And the bigger the tent,
he just he dodges around this idea that he won't endorse the guy that won the Democratic primary. And you have to wonder why. Now, Zohran Mamdani has been, critical of this war in Gaza. Many people call it a genocide. So many thousands of innocent lives have been lost. There's starvation. They're not getting food. Of course, the terrorist group Hamas that wreaks havoc. It's a nasty situation. But there's innocent lives, and Zohran speaks about that. When all the candidates were asked which foreign country would they visit first, everyone said Israel, and he said, I'm not visiting anywhere. I'm staying in New York to govern these people. And when you see someone like Hakeem Jeffries, it's all public information. Hakeem Jeffries has received $1.7 million from pro-Israel groups between 1990 and 2024. This is information that's easily accessible. It's like right there, flat out in front of us. And so you have to wonder, is he speaking on behalf of the American people, or are they trying to play towards some of these groups that fund their campaigns? The way to get rid of this is to get rid of campaign or change the campaign finance laws so that no foreign entities whatsoever can change or can donate to your campaign. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's right in front of us. When you call it out, you get called anti-Semitic, and it's got nothing to do with the people. Nothing to do with the people. It's all about influence from these powerful groups that, what do they want? Do they want to install a candidate that isn't going to address these big humanitarian issues? Here's Zohran Mamdani. He makes these videos, right? Shooting our videos is a bit different now. He makes these videos in public.
That's Northern tourist walks in Midtown.
Now he's trying to make a video, but people keep stopping him on the side of the road to get selfies. If you're listening on the audio-only version of this podcast, he's an absolute celebrity in New York City. He's literally unable to make a video on the streets without everybody interrupting him. This is a once-in-a-generation character who is speaking towards a city that feels as though they're being priced out, right? The middle class, the working class built New York City, and now it's a playground for the ultra-wealthy. He's speaking towards them. He won the primary, and yet that's not enough. And I'm just exposing this so people understand. Look at that. This lady's running towards him. Give me a phone. I got to get a photo of this guy. This is how they felt about Obama, throwing babies at him. Come on, give me some love here. So it is, I mean, this speaks for itself. Regardless of what you think of the guy, he goes on late night TV. Everyone wants to call him anti-Semitic and do all these things. And he's like, no, look, I want all of the hate to go away. I want to fund the organizations that'll kind of get rid of some of that hate. But at the same time, I just want to raise taxes on the ultra wealthy and on corporations so that we can afford to live in this great city. Absolute crazy stuff. All right, our final story of the day. We have Superman and James Gunn, the director. He's being called too woke. And I guess they're trying to boycott the new Superman movie. Have a listen to this.
Yankees at Mets game yesterday at Citi Field. Go Yanks. And you should see the people sitting for the national anthem for God Bless America. It's really just, I can't believe that we've come down to that. And
by the way, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. These folks that are obsessed with culture war issues like Kellyanne Conway over here, they're not standing for the national anthem. They're not wearing enough American flag. Like, you know what I mean? That's all she sees. So now she sees Superman as too woke.
I don't know. We don't go to the movie theater to be lectured to and to have somebody throw their ideology onto us. I wonder if it'll be successful.
You know what it says on his cape? MS-13.
Wow.
Oh, you got him. That's Superman. And it's all because the director James Gunn said Superman would have been an immigrant. And it's true. He was from another world, right? Where's he from again? Anyhow, I'm not a nerd. It was, Zohran. By the way, Zohran sounds like the name of a country or a planet that Superman would be from. Superman from Zohran. Either way, Superman, he's an immigrant, right? He's not from here. He's trying to blend in. There's a lot of metaphors to that. And they go, oh, he would have been part of MS-13. So here we have Dean Cain responding to James Gunn's immigration soapbox. And here's what he has to say. Okay, of course, James Dean. What's his name again? Dean Cain. Golly, let's get through this. Dean Cain here, who again is another one of those guys who's fallen off his brain's broken on culture war issues. He was my Superman, right? When I grew up, he was my Superman from the TV show. And here's what he has to say.
He was traditionally called the Big Blue Boy Scout. And Superman's inherent weakness is his goodness. I mean, sorry, but those are great values in my opinion. And I root for that. To see people picking on Superman and Jesse Waters making a funny comment about the cape saying MS-13, he wasn't talking about the character, in my opinion. I think he was talking about, I know Jesse well and I love him. I think he's great and funny, but he makes great political points with some snark, and it's great.
Do you see how they have to just suck everyone's dick off? They can't criticize anybody because then they fear they'll be pushed out of the little cult. By the way, Superman is from Krypton, which makes sense because kryptonite is what he's allergic to or whatever. You get it.
I think it's wonderful. And the point I think he was making about the MS-13 thing on his cape was how woke is Hollywood going to make this character? How much is Disney going to change their Snow White? Why are they going to change these characters that exist, for the times? For Superman, it was truth, justice, and the American way. Well, they dropped that. In fact, they let it go. They let that trademark on that go. So it's out there, and they came up with truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. Changing beloved characters.
Yeah, probably because it's a global market and they probably wanted to expand outside of America. I don't know, folks. I just think it's absolute garbage and exhausting to hear everyone talk about culture war issues. I just remind you listening out there, when it comes down to it, with all of the elections that'll come up and who you're voting for and whatnot, forget the culture war stuff. Forget it. That's what they want us to talk about. Are grocery prices getting lower? Is it cheap to buy a home? Can you afford your health insurance? Do you want paid family leave after you have a baby? These are the types of frameworks and issues we need to be talking about, not whether Superman is woke. Don't let them keep you distracted. All right, that's it for me. We'll be back in the morning. I'm here twice a day, every morning, every afternoon. Pop culture, political news, you get it from here, from me right here. All right, we'll see you then. I'm Dave, and this is The Rush.